Hey folks, it's Rena Jadov here with the Healthier Podcast, and I've got Jimmy Deminoff here with us with a story of hope. Now, if you've been stressed out about COVID, this is a story you're going to want to tune into. Jimmy, welcome.
Thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Much better after hearing your story. So let's start at the beginning.
Yep.
You got COVID. How'd you get COVID? Let's start at the very beginning. What were you doing?
So I was actually driving out to our ranch with a friend of mine and his son, and little did I know that his son had was on a play date with another young boy who actually was COVID positive. We end up in the truck together for 2.5 hours, and that's how it happens.
Were you wearing a mask?
No.
Ooh, were you following our beautiful president when he says don't wear a mask? Or what was your logic in not wearing a mask? I'm just curious.
So I'm a pretty healthy person. I try to keep 6 feet distance from everybody, but I'm not one of those people that I'm going to live my life behind a mask. And so I've chosen not to do that. So
Got it. Okay. So you felt it was okay to be without a mask, and you were hanging out with this family. And how many hours did you spend with them?
It was 2.5 hours in the vehicle, each direction.
Okay, so
Out
that's
there and back.
significant. Closed car, locked windows.
Yep.
Got it. And
Yep.
so play it out for me. So you hang out. When does your first symptom begin?
So, I got back from the ranch, and it's pretty dusty out in West Texas. And so you come back and you've always got, it almost feels like sinus congestion for a couple days until everything sort of flushes through. But we got back on Tuesday evening, and from Tuesday to Friday, I kept feeling, I felt better and better every day. And Saturday morning, I woke up and I felt like $1 million. Well, I ended up, my son and I went and ran a couple errands and did some stuff. And later that afternoon, literally felt like I was just exhausted. And as I got back home, I could tell something was way off because I was cold and it was like 90 degrees here. And I took my temperature, and my temperature was 103 in one ear and 104 in the other. And I was like, I got a problem. And at that point, my buddy had actually called a couple hours before and said, hey, his son had tested positive. And I knew at that point that I had COVID because of where my temperature was. But I couldn't find anywhere to get tested until Monday morning. And that's when I was confirmed that, I was COVID positive.
So it took you about, what would you say, like 3 days to develop your first symptom of feeling fatigue, cold, and then having an actual fever?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And in those 3 days, you felt great. It's not like there was an onset of slow symptoms.
Nope, it was no onset of, it hit me like a, yeah.
Got it. So you find out you got COVID. What's your first reaction?
I think you hear the mass hysteria with the media, and you look and go, even though the statistics say you're going to be okay, I'm not going to lie. There was a little bit of fear going, okay, I'm almost 50. I've got pretty bad asthma. I had high altitude sickness 30 years ago. And so I've got some pretty severe scarring on my lungs. And so I'm not going to lie. There was a little bit of fear there, but I also looked and said, what's going to be is going to be. And by the time I knew that I was COVID positive, a day and a half had already went by, because Saturday, when my temperature peaked at 103, by the time I actually got into the doctor to get the rapid test done, my temperature had already fallen from 103 down to 100.4 to 100.7, depending on the time where it was. And so I knew that as long as my temperature's not in that 103 range, that I'm going to probably be okay. And then it's just managing the fever. And I never felt like my chest was completely just filled up with fluid. it I felt more like I had tightness in my chest, but that it was like having asthma in allergy season. And I managed my fever, and I went and bought an oxygen sensor that you could put on your finger so that I could tell where my oxygen levels were. And I mean, that really was the big things that I did. I mean, the CDC, as soon as I got tested, they sent me a letter basically saying, "Hey, you're positive. Don't freak out. There's 99.99% of the people that have corona survive this. These are the things that you need to do." And one was drink lots of fluid.
Wait a minute. Back up.
Yep.
You got a letter from the CDC. Was it an email, a text, a physical letter?
It was a text. So where I did the rapid test, they sent a text to me that with the link to the CDC website saying, okay, you have now tested positive. These are the next steps that you need to take. One was the first paragraph was quarantine, identify all the people that you've been around in the last 4 or 5 days and communicate to them what's going on so that they are aware that they may have been exposed. I did that. And then the rest of it really was about me and my symptoms and what did I need to do. And the reality is they said, take Tylenol for your fever, take some type of antihistamine, whether it's Mucinex or Sudafed or something to help with the control of the mucus going into your lungs. And then it was lots of rest and lots of fluids, lots of water. And I mean, that's literally what I did was I watched a lot of Netflix and just let my body recover. And every day I felt stronger and stronger. It took about 4 or 5 days for the fever to completely break. That was sort of weird because I would go 18 hours without a fever, and then all of a sudden I would feel the chills and I would take my temperature and I'd have 100.4 fever. Wow. And I would take a couple aspirin and I'd be good for another 12 to 20 hours. And it was just sort of that cat and mouse with the fever for 4 to 6 days. And that finally went away. And I mean, there was a little bit of a lagging cough that happened. It's like allergies. And once that went away, I mean, I'm back to normal. So
what's remarkable is that you do have asthma. You had prior scarring of lungs. So as they would say, you had pre-existing conditions.
Oh, yeah.
You're describing, and you did have some pretty extended exposure in a locked car for over 5 hours. And it still appears that you've healed remarkably well. I mean, are you still feeling exhausted? So what day is it today?
Today is day 9.
Okay. And how are you feeling? I mean, you're back, right? It looks like you're back.
Oh, yeah. No, I will tell you, I am probably 98%. Okay. I mean, I can still feel there's a little bit of crud there, but I would be going back to work. I'm living my life normally. Tomorrow I am out of quarantine, and watch out, world, because I'm back. So,
are you negative? Have you tested negative, and will you be getting tested?
No. So, the CDC requirements don't require that.
Okay.
And so they say that 10 days after your first symptom, which would be Saturday, tomorrow was my 10th day. And so it is 10 days from your initial symptom and 24 hours from your last fever. Well, I haven't had a fever in 4 days now. And so as of tomorrow, I am well beyond any of the CDC requirements. And so they're not requiring a secondary test to come back. And I've actually heard that there's, after you have tested positive, that there's a high likelihood that you would test positive again just because you have the antibodies in your system. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I wasn't going to go take a second test to prove that I don't have it anymore. I know that
Are you going to get tested for antibodies?
Say what?
Will you get tested for antibodies?
I had the Austin Public Health Department call me 3 days ago about coming off of quarantine. As a matter of fact, when you're asking this, they actually called to tell me that tomorrow I am allowed to re-enter society, and they asked me that if I would be interested in donating antibodies because I guess because I've had COVID that I will have the antibodies, and so yeah, my plan is to go donate blood so that they can go try to find um, a, what you call it for it uh, oh
Someone who might need the blood, someone who's
yep yeah
critical.
yep.
Any lingering symptoms that you have not shared so far? Were there any weird symptoms? Like, did you lose sense of taste or smell?
No, I mean
COVID toes.
yeah, no, I mean you hear all that craziness, and I mean for me, I mean it was pretty pretty mild. I mean, when I tested positive, my son was also in the vehicle for the 3 hours out to our ranch and the 3 hours back, and my son didn't get COVID. How that is, I have no idea.
Okay.
But we got back, and my older daughter tested positive, my younger daughter tested positive, my niece tested positive, and so
Were they
everybody
all exposed?
they were exposed through me from being around me at the house. But
Got it.
you also look at that and go, okay, how did my son not get the virus when he was actually around my friend?
Significantly more.
Yeah, just as much. I mean, we were all in the vehicle together. So
So there's a lot of questions that remain unanswered. I think this is one of those. This is one of those mysteries that they haven't been able to resolve in terms of the predictability of who catches it, because you're not alone in being a unique situation where your son, who was along with you with the same duration, same exposure, didn't get it. And is it possible that his immune system is so strong that he just didn't develop any symptoms? Was he tested?
oh yeah, and he's actually being tested again. So they're requiring all the kids to be tested so that they are allowed to go back to school. So as we speak, they're actually at the doctor
and
getting.
He's negative.
He was negative the first time, and we'll see if he's negative again. So
okay. How's everybody else that got infected through you?
100% asymptomatic.
Oh, so you're the only one that was symptomatic.
Yep.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yep.
You mentioned you bought an oxygen tracker from Amazon. Tell us a little bit about that. What did that do for you?
You know those little things that when you go to the doctor, when you're getting your physical, they put the little reader on your finger and it tests your oxygen level. I mean, it's $20 on Amazon, and as soon as I just having asthma and knowing that was one of the big risks is your lungs, I wanted to be able to measure what was going on, and so I regularly, I would call it every 2, 3, 4 hours, I would get up and I would literally, if I felt like my chest was tight or if I was having a little more difficult time breathing than I normally would, I put that oxygen reader on because I wanted to see where my O2 levels really were. And even through all that, when I thought that I was having a hard time breathing, I would put my oxygen meter on it, and I was at 95%. Now, you want to try, you don't want to be below 94, I think is the number. But I also know when you're having a hard time breathing, because I've got asthma, taking big deep breaths helps to increase your oxygen levels. And I would go through those exercises that I knew that I needed to do, just because having had asthma, I knew how to increase my oxygen levels. So.
And was there anything else that you did at all other than that? So you took your Sudafed, your aspirin, inhaler, steroid?
I would love to tell you there was some crazy silver bullet, but nope. It was literally just let time do its thing.
Zinc, vitamin D, supplements, nothing?
I did take vitamin C and I did take zinc, but I was taking those for the last month and a half, just trying to make sure that my immune system was up.
Okay, let's talk about that. What all did you do prior to catching it to get your immune system up?
So I've got 1,000 milligram vitamin C tablets. I take one of those in the morning, and I've got a zinc tablet that I take as well. And literally, it's that and a couple multivitamins, and that's the extent of what I've done to just try to live healthy. I mean, I hike 30 to 40 miles a week. I mean, I'm pretty active, and so I'll tell you that now. I mean, I'm overweight a little bit, but the I'm very very active. I mean, I probably am hiking 4, 5, 6 days a week. So
Fantastic. I mean, these are great insights, right? Vitamin C, zinc, I'll add vitamin D, throw in a multivitamin, and get out of the house and go for a hike.
yep,
I think these are some of just incredibly important insights to share, because clearly you went into it with a strong enough immune system, despite the fact that you do have both asthma as well as potentially pre-existing condition in your lungs. So Jimmy, this is fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. If anything changes, will you come back and share with us if anything changes at all?
yep, yep.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks,
Well,
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
my pleasure. And for the rest of you, clearly COVID is something we all need to make sure that we are protecting ourselves from, being careful, putting on those masks, strengthening our immune system. But I will say, Jimmy's story is so much filled with hope that it isn't a death sentence if you have asthma, or if you're slightly overweight, or if you even may have had some damage in your lungs. You know, here's someone who's recovered in 9 days and is right here in front of you looking pretty darn good. So stay smiling, chin up, cheer up. It's not the end of the world. We're going to get through this together. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye bye.